Metro Cebu is the second largest metropolis of the Philippines, which now encompasses 13 local government units. In 2010, its population was about 2.5 million. However, projection of the roadmap study sees more than 5 million in 2050. The natural features of Metro Cebu reveal high hazard risks for landslide and flooding. Only 24% is suitable for urban development free from natural hazards. Like any fast-growing urban area, Metro Cebu is beset with its share of development issues, such as wastewater and solid waste management, flooding and insufficient water supply, and heavy traffic. To respond effectively to these challenges, the Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board, MCDCB, in coordination with JICA, embarked on the formulation of a sustainable urban development vision for Metro Cebu 2050. It came up with development strategies of competitiveness, livability, mobility, and most importantly, the metropolitan management. To realize the Mega Cebu Vision 2050, this study crafted the following sub-roadmaps addressing 7 critical issues. Present urbanization trend of the metropolis is concentrated in the already densely populated core urban areas. This results in daily traffic congestion and hampers economic and social activities. The development pattern of a monocentric growth should be refashioned to a polycentric to accommodate 5 million people in 2050. An urban cluster system will be adopted to define urban function. The cities of Danao and Naga could be developed as growth poles next to the core areas. Well-appointed green buffer areas will ensure environmental safety nets for the metropolis. As such, a future spatial plan for the whole Metro Cebu was formulated in this roadmap study in coordination with the 13 LGUs of Metro Cebu. Due to limited road space and network, average vehicle speed in the urban area remain very low. Additional roads are proposed to provide alternate routes for public and private transport. Bottleneck mitigation measures such as modification of intersections, grade separation, road widening, and introduction of area traffic control will be conducted. Likewise, the introduction of a mass transit system network is proposed in order to substantially improve mobility. This starts with the introduction of an automated guideway transit, AGT, airport line to connect Mactan Island and Cebu Island by early 2020s. Additionally, mass rapid transit, MRT lines, with a combined length of 97 kilometers and approximately 50 stations connecting all the cities and municipalities of Metro Cebu, will be operational in phases, starting from 2030 to 2050. Metro Cebu will enjoy a steady economic growth, even in the long term. People's affluence levels, in terms of per capita GRDP, is projected to grow to more than $20,000 in 2050. Annual tourist arrivals breached the 2.5 million mark in 2013 and will continue to increase over the years. The Mega Cebu Investment Board will be established to promote 4 priority sectors. Special attention will be paid for regional branding as well as resources in different economic sectors. One of the challenging issues in Metro Cebu is the inadequacy and poor quality of its water supply. The current water supply will be unable to meet future demand of the metropolis. The over-extraction of underground water, a main water source for Cebu, already causes saltwater intrusion into the aquifer, encroaching up to inland from Cebu City's shore. Due to expanding demand and supply gap, construction of plural dams are essential, requiring urgent consensus building. There are many flood-prone areas in Metro Cebu. An enormous amount of garbage and inappropriate structures along the riverbanks obstruct the flow of natural and man-made waterways. To analyze the problem thoroughly, a comprehensive study for Metro Cebu Integrated Flood and Drainage System Master Plan will be formulated, along with clearing of rivers and constructing small-scale rainwater storage facilities. Surprisingly, Metro Cebu does not have a proper public wastewater management system. Fecal coliform that exceeds acceptable standards was detected at the rivers and sea. Without endangering human health or the natural environment, human and industrial wastes need to be disposed properly. Construction of a septage treatment plant by cluster is a matter of the greatest urgency. Unorganized dump sites are seen in Metro Cebu. A comprehensive solid waste management master plan for Metro Cebu will be required to formulate strategic policy and plan. Moreover, the Waste Reduction and Recovery Program needs strict adherence and follow-through. The South Road property, SRP, is a 300-hectare reclamation area. The development concept of SRP is to become an IT-concentrated industry zone for Metro Cebu, but predominantly holds residential and commercial areas. A unified management system of energy supply and demand in SRP is promoted to realize a smart SRP. To implement the metropolis-wide projects outlined by these roadmaps, an institutional body to handle metropolitan affairs is necessary. That body will consist of not only LGUs, but also the private sector and civil society organizations, referred to as the Metro Cebu model. As a first step for institutional development process, MCDCB will be strengthened to coordinate several types of feasibility studies, arrange project finance, and enhance planning capacity. This institutional body will be developed with enhanced governance function. Metro Cebu Roadmap consists of 7 sub-roadmaps. Based on implementation perspective, 14 anchor programs are selected as high-priority roadmap projects. With these programs, Metro Cebu will take their first step toward Mega Cebu Vision 2050. We welcome all our valuable partners to realize these roadmaps. Together, let us make big waves for the Mega Cebu Vision 2050. Mega Cebu, making waves.
Welcome everyone to our third FGD, Understanding Cebu's Socio-Political Landscape. We will begin the focus group discussion in just a short while, but before that, just a few reminders. For the participants and IMF fellows, please rename your screen name in the format presented on the screen. As much as possible, position yourself in an appropriate room, free from background noise and distractions. If your internet bandwidth allows, please turn on your cameras, mute your microphones during the presentation of our sharers. Should you ask questions or raise suggestions, please utilize the raise hand button or the chat box. For future reference, the session for today will be recorded. And lastly, as said, this is our third FGD, so we have 2 more FGDs to go. And if you would like to join, the details will be shared during the announcements. Without further ado, let me introduce to you Ms. Mitzi Light-Papuno.
Thank you so much, Audrey. So good day and welcome to Metro Cebu Hackathon. If you're still wondering what the Metro Hackathon is, I would like to provide you with a quick overview. The Metro Hackathon is a simulated brain shop and capability building activity for IMF fellows together with its local partners, which aims to understand and establish the strategic role of a metropolitan region to the nation's development and the international economy. The workshop series includes revisiting previous development plans, projects, or programs, and answering the basic question, what is the role of Metro Cebu in the world for the next 30 years? We find the event very timely since October is the filing of candidacy for political aspirants here in the Philippines. So the result of this hackathon may or could influence their platforms or agenda. So to proceed, next slide, please. This is our hackathon timeline. We started in August and will present the results by October. Just to emphasize that the main purpose of this FGDs is to gather data in the hopes of answering our hypothesis. If the hypothesis cannot be answered, then this will be another opportunity for us to collaborate, learn, and find more innovative and more creative ways to move forward. Therefore, we would like to encourage everybody present in the Zoom meeting to share their thoughts and opinions, because through active discourse, we'll be able to highlight different perspectives and produce unique insights and action plans. To keep everything organized and on time, we will try our best to follow this program flow. We will first start on the inputs from the research agenda team and the invited sharer, then proceed to the moderated discussion. After that, please do not leave yet, for we will have a quick photo op and there will be a few announcements regarding the future FGDs. This event will not be possible without these two organizations, the International Metropolitan Fellowship and the Cebu Leads Foundation Incorporation. So before I give the spotlight to our esteemed resource speaker, we would like first to acknowledge the presence of our participants here in the Zoom meeting. Participants from IMF Global, Cebu Leads Foundation Incorporation, Philippine Economic Zone Authority, Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board, Research Program and Organizational Development, Philippine Institute of Environmental Planners, NCR, CREDPR, Concept, University of San Carlos Department of Anthropology, Sociology and History, Universidad Privada de Santa Cruz, University of the Philippines Diliman College of Architecture, and lastly, Mapua University. Again, welcome and thank you for coming as we engage in a focus group discussion entitled Understanding Metro Cebu's Socio-Political Landscape. We hope this event will serve as a platform for innovative ideas and thought-provoking discussions that will lead to a better Cebu. So to move forward, let me introduce to you our FGD moderators, IMF Global President Architect Mark Roland de Castro, and Program Coordinator of Cebu Leads Foundation, Mr. Elizar Sabinay. A virtual round of applause.
Thank you, Mitzi. Thank you, Audrey, and the rest. Welcome once again. Good day, everyone. This is our third focus group discussion, focus more understanding Cebu's social-political landscape. And we have already our speaker in the meeting room, as well as the research agenda team from the Mapua University. So we'll discuss, but we'll check the discussion later to encourage all the participants, particularly those who are members of the International Metropolitan Fellowship from different chapters attending us today. So we'd like to introduce to you our speaker that will give us a glimpse and overview about Metro Cebu and Cebu as a whole, to give us more information about the social political landscape of Cebu on a history perspective. And for you to know more about Cebu, let me introduce our speaker for today. She is currently the chairman of the Department of the Sociology and Anthropology of the University of San Carlos here in Cebu. May I call on our speaker, Ma'am Delayla Labac.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So allow me to share my screen. Okay, I'll try to finish this in 10 minutes. Okay, so this is Cebu socio-political landscape. So I really did my best to have a compacted presentation. So maybe we can ask the question, what was Cebu before 1521? So very briefly, it seems that Cebu's emergence as one island was probably caused by a series of volcanic, tectonic, and plate movements. Prior to the coming of the Spaniards, these were the earliest settled places in the Philippines. Butuan, Cebu, Negros, Panay, Solo, and Maitong, which is General Santos City at present. So we have to take note here that prior to the coming of the Spaniards, who were already actively participating in Southeast Asian or Asian trading system, maritime trading. And Butuan and Cebu were already noted to be the trading centers in the Philippines. Okay, we do not exactly know when Cebu was populated, but some evidence point to the early Metal Age. We are definite that it was through migration from the settlers nearby. It was a fishing village. Most of the dwellers, especially sa research na mga findings with archaeology, history, and anthropology, we usually found early dwellers in the promontory areas. And to when the Cebuanos became seaport traders, that is not clear, but definitely in the 9th and 10th century, Cebu was already actively engaged in trading. Okay, so this was the trade links between Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. So through the Silk Road, Suez Canal, and eventually later, after the Spanish exploration, that was already the circumnavigation. Okay, so very briefly, these were the known cultivated products: rice, millet. For those who are not familiar with millet, mao ni siya himuon nato og bibingkang dawa o bibingkang kabo. Then we have a bit of sugarcane, gold, trading items, gold, metalworks, cotton, food supplies, marine products, slaves, pottery, porcelain, musical instruments, beads, religious icons, silk, and other embroidered cloths. Okay, so from there, pre-colonial period, we have the coming of the Spaniards. So of course we have Christianity, the coming in of Christianity. Okay, which we are celebrating now, the 500 years of Christianity. Okay, so from Cebu, which was the first settled area in the Philippines, they moved to Panay and they moved to Manila. So eventually, from Cebu, naabot ang capital city in Manila itself. So started the Spanish colonization. Okay, so we have here what we call as the economic backwaters for 200 years in Cebu. Cebu's role as regional trade center was undermined by the galleon trade based in Manila. The galleon trade also did not carry much of Philippine products, only 10%. Cebu, for example, only got cotton, but it was a short-lived galleon trade in Cebu. Its traditional trade linkages with other Asian and Southeast Asian traders was disrupted as traders began to bypass the port of Cebu because of this. In 1594, there was a decree. The 1594 decree allowed Spanish citizens in Cebu to build and send 1 galleon to New Mexico, but the trade items that could be loaded were limited to products that did not necessarily have high demand in New Mexico. So eventually in 1604, Cebu-based galleon trade closed. Okay, then there was the introduction of the concept of land ownership. In theory, the crown owned all the land. Changes in landholding patterns in Cebu, especially in Metro Cebu area, Banilad Estates in Manila, and the Talisay Minglanilla Estate of Agustinian Mandaue Estate of Jesuits, Chinese and Chinese mestizos also began acquiring landholdings. Then there was the introduction of new crops, corn, tobacco, cacao. Took a while before the Cebuanos were able to adjust to these new crops. So the first economic boom in Cebu was in 1860. when Cebu's port was open to world trade, resulting to the increase in population, influx of Chinese immigrants and Western merchants, rise of new industries and occupational classes, shifts in property ownership patterns, expansion of colonial bureaucracy, and advances in transportation and communication. In 1890, Cebu City had a population of 16,398 in 18 districts or barrios. So eventually, the previous picture was about the revolution. So under the American rule, infrastructure improvements included expansion of the port, building of the Danao-Argao Railroad Line, 1908, the introduction of electric lights, VECO, for example, in 1905, and waterworks system in 1912, the construction of public buildings, Custom House, Southern Island Hospital, other schools, Plaza, Fuente Osmeña, 1910 to 1912. Then we have the political changes, also included the integration of San Nicolas, Pardo, Mabolo, Talamban in the jurisdiction of Cebu City. Okay, so this is now the active trading areas of the port. These are some of the pictures. This is Colon area. This is the train station during the American period. So this passes by in front of Imol. That's from Danao to Karkar and Railroad Center. Okay, opening of theaters. And then the aftermath of World War II, you have 1950. Business boomed again in 1950, that's boom. Domestic trade strengthened the role of Cebu as regional entry port. Growth of shipping industry, like the coming in of the Abuetes and Company, Gothong, William Lines, and others. In 1958, Cebu becomes the main base for shipping industry of the Philippines. Then coming in of big companies, Nissan in Danao City, San Miguel Corporation, General Milling Corporation, Loduliem, among others. In 1960, we have the North Reclamation Area, 1968 to 1973, the first Mandawi-Mactan Bridge. 1964 to 1967, relocation of airport from Lahog to Mactan Island. 1999, the construction of second Mandawi-Mactan Bridge, establishment of MEPSA, an airport expansion, development of tourist destination in Mactan and island of Cebu. So this started Cebu as one of the important tourist destination in the whole country. In 2000, we have the South Reclamation Area development, more economic zones like Cebu IT Park, Cebu Business Park, or the Ayala area IT Park. Then followed by the South Road property. Then, of course, the very recent third bridge, Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway. Common to the three bridges, the first Mandawi-Mactan Bridge, the second one, and this Cebu-Cordova Link, common reason for its construction is really the booming of economy. Cebu City has become the tourist gateway to central and southern Philippines. The port of Cebu is the country's second largest seaport. The city is a major hub for business process outsourcing industry of the Philippines. In 2013, Cebu ranked 8th worldwide in top BPO destinations report. Being a highly urbanized city, Cebu City, along with Mandaue, Lapu-Lapu, is independent from the Cebu province. Its electorate do not vote for possible provincial officials. There were proposals during the time of Governor Emilio Osmeña to establish an administrative district that would be independent from Cebu City. Even up to now, especially during national elections, Cebu is known to be the most vote-rich province. The province of Cebu tops the list of 81 provinces when it comes to the number of registered voters. According to COMELEC data, in May 2019 election, there were 3,082,621 voters as registered for the May 2019 polls in Cebu City. This number makes up about almost 5% of the total registered voters in the Philippines. So I included that because I was also considering one of the considerations that we have with this focus group discussion, and it's the upcoming election. Okay, so I think that's all from my part. So you may ask also further later in the open forum. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Ellie. Sir Mark is currently on listening mode, so I'll be assisting you if ever there are questions concerning the presentation on the socio-political aspect of Mega Cebu. So anyone who wants to ask questions, it's very interesting because historically Cebu is an economic hub ever since. So I think we just need to discuss further how it will become or how we can utilize Cebu as economic hub or alternative economic hub from the Greater Manila.
Thank you,
Anyone who wants?
Sir Merch. Actually, I was also. Thank you, Sir Merch. No, it was eye-awakening from the presentation of Ma'am Leila that Cebu, even before 1521, it's already a trading center. No, I will not call it Philippines because before 1521, it's not yet called Philippines. So it's crucial in its position in terms of its contribution to the country, contribution to other island and its impact to other island. Then how it shifts from being an industrial at trade center to become how do you call it, a main base for shipping industry. Then by late 1990s, it will introduce as a tourism industry. So the evolution itself of its focus, of its economic drivers and the coming in of big investors such as the Boitis and Company, the Gotong, as mentioned by Leila. It's quite, the evolution itself is a good learning for us Cebuanos. At the same time, it's a good way of understanding how is Cebu before and how is Cebu now. But basically, based on the presentation of Ma'am Leila, it plays a crucial role, not just in the Visayas, but even to the entire country itself. And also, as mentioned by Ma'am Leila, as we are the #1 voting province in the Philippines, and right now, as of now, even before the Congress approved the extension, which is until October 31 now, Cebu already have 3.2 million registrants. That's around 1 to 2% increase from the 2019 election. So that's how, in terms of actively participating, Cebuano is in terms of electing new leaders for the country, electing new leaders for the province, and also for the mayor. So there is a question here from the chat group or the chat room, Ma'am Delilah, from Sir Mark Rolla. No? Is there a historical link of Cebu that has instigated it being a creative hub, like arts, etc.? Because you mentioned before in your presentation, Ma'am Leila, I think it was around early 18th century during the American period time where they created theaters. No, so maybe how was there a connection, a link for this? And follow-up question: why has there been a boom in creative industry? And last question: is there a connection to Cebu's history? Thank you, Sir Mark, for that question.
Even during the Spanish period, there was already the creative art, but in the form of zarzuela, theater, what the other one, moro-moro. So it's more on stage acts, or it's more connected to fiestas and even church activities. during the American period and in the early 1900s, those were the times when Cebu, not only Cebu, but even in Metro Manila, arts was emphasized through theater. Yeah, there was already the existence of movies. So that's why in those periods, art was more emphasized. So that's why the Colon area is really supposedly for us heritage conservationists. For us, there is really the need to conserve or to preserve those theaters, but I think it's already transformed into malls. So, but nevertheless, the architecture is still there. So it's there because Cebu is always not only strategically located in the Philippines as the center of the Philippines, but if we will go back to history, even before the pre-colonial period, Cebu was already a trading center. So sa Binisaya pa na, adtuanan or anhianan yun ang Cebu. So because of that, civilization and development was earlier in Cebu. So we were able to focus also in the different types of art. So it's a long conversation, but then of course when we talk of art, it has something to do with architecture, applied architecture, interior, painting, even music, and so on and so forth. There was even a time in our department, last 2007, we offered Cebuano history and Cebuano history and heritage. So it was there that we were able to see how beautiful the art of Cebu in the field of art Cebu was during those times. So in fact, we even have kind of an organization that is advocating on the conservation or the preservation of Cebuano art alone.
Actually, very interesting, Ellie and Ma'am Laila. No? But I'm particularly interested in discussing the creative movement right now in Cebu, because we have discussed this early on. And one of my thinking is what are the other niches or niche of Cebu in terms of creative movement, no? And one of the presentation basically is where the economy also at play, and particular of that is the furniture industry in Cebu, no? So I want to ask Ma'am Laila, how can we make this furniture industry into one of the niche of Cebu in terms of economic activity?
I think maybe we can tap with not only with the known artists in Cebu, but we can tap the artisans. So in fact, in our cultural heritage mapping, because that is really the first step that we are doing when it comes to heritage conservation and development planning, we have to the artisans, the local artists in a certain locality, so that we can make use, or we can really exhaust, and we can really help them, assist them in letting them share their giftedness or their art, because sometimes, or most of the times, ang ordinary artist or these artisans don't really exactly know how good they are or how big is their contribution to the community. It's only later, when they are already tapped, that they will realize their worth as artisans, because they are the source of our indigenous knowledge. So if we are looking for authentic Cebuano art or creative art, we can find it with these people.
Thank you for that answer. Actually, that's what I'm looking for, because if we want to see Cebu grow together with the people, maybe the creative movement shifted their interest on how we can utilize the expertise and the artistry of the artisans and produce good quality furnitures that, and we have that already. It's just a matter of, making sure that it's on top of our agenda in terms of the
Okay.
creative movement. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you, Sir Mertz, no? And Ma'am Leila. There is another question here from this, still Sir Mark, no? What do you think are the main barriers and enablers of this creative movement for Metro Cebu? Is there a map? Yeah. I'll ask one question at a time because the third question is quite different topic. So maybe on the second question, main barriers, Ma'am Leila, on this creative movement for Metro.
Yeah, maybe the main barrier is since Cebu was earlier when it comes to economic progress, or what do you call this one? Mas developed man ang Cebu than compared to the other places in the Philippines. So I think that's the main one, because ang mind sa mga Cebuanos are, some of the Cebuanos are already looking at the imported ones, not with the local ones. And one of the things nga amo ang nakita is really on how not only the Cebuanos but other Filipinos, actually, when we go to different places, we can really say nga there is the lack of our people to take a look at the local creative people, to look at the local creative movements, for example. And in line with the question, is there a mapping already of local artisans? Yes, there are, because Cebu is not behind with cultural heritage mapping, but it's not true to all areas in Cebu. So even if the provincial government or even the national government, the National Commission for the Culture and Arts are supporting cultural heritage mapping, but not all places. So like, for example, in Cebu City, I think nobody's very serious in taking a look and documenting the artisans of Santo Niño image, the image of Santo Niño, the Cape of Santo Niño, tanan. Although I'm also studying, my dissertation is about that. But when we talk of kanang looking at it very carefully, wala gyud. So documenting everything. Blacksmithing near the highway, what road is that? Kanang blacksmithing, kanay na maligya og kuan. Sundang and Bolos, that's really authentic Cebuano, that portion there. So we need it more. We need people who can take a look at that seriously. When you go to the north of Cebu right now, you can pass by Sugod, the last portion of Sugod. It's really improving because I'm from San Remigio. So before the pandemic, they only produce very simple furnitures or lanterns lang. But during the pandemic, they became more artistic, and they have all the furnitures that we can think of. Ang mga plantitas kusog kay mamalitana, and they are already supplying the city. Mga pot holders, pot stand. So those are the things na we may be neglecting them, but it's there. Panig making, for example. So I'm one of those who did still on cultural heritage mapping, Alugunsan, way back 2009, just before they go into ecotourism. So we revive the banig making and puso making of the area.
It's very interesting. Actually, Ma'am Laila, we have this Facebook group. I think most of the admins are from Cebu on Filipino traditional blades, featuring the products in bladesmithing in Cebu. And yeah, I think it catches that idea. No? Ellie?
Yeah. I also would like to add on the point shared by Ma'am Leila based on the question of Sir Mark in terms of barriers and enablers. Maybe there's a question on prioritization from the government. No? They are not, they see it, they somewhat value it, but in terms of priority, it's not on top, maybe top 5, top 6, top 7, but they see it as valuable. And right now, because I've seen this event, right, especially from the business world, the Cebu Chamber, as shared by Architect Maxwell, they're now focusing on the creatives. They have even the creative week. No, it's my first time to see it. Maybe there was before, but now it's very active. They have this creative month, a lot of discussion, and when we say creative, it's more than just art. It's also talent, no? Animation. No? There was even an article that say that Cebu could be the animation hub of the Philippines, right? What are your thoughts about this, Ma'am Lila? Is it, why are the government not prioritizing it? Is it because they don't see this as economically impactful to them? Not helps, not
That could be one. That could be one. Yeah, it's not an easy money after after supporting and developing it. We are also helping right now with Lapu-Lapu City for cultural mapping, and they are also looking at creative tourism. As much as possible, we want to also recommend, and the local government of Lapu-Lapu City is good enough to support that creative tourism, ecotourism for especially sa island sa Lapu-Lapu. After the first phase of the cultural heritage mapping, I was amazed. There is a rope making in Basak, Lapu-Lapu, and the people there are making it still at present, but it's not really as popular as we know of them. And of course, the shellcraft industry of the island, which is really giving them income. Naara sa mga balay-balay, and that should be taken into consideration. Creative tourism is really promising because it will involve people.
And that's somewhat in relation to what you asked Sir Mertz about what's the niche of Cebu. That's it, creative tourism. How can you make a tourist involved and participate? That makes the difference, no, in Cebu. So my question, oh, I forgot my question. Anyways, nakalimutan na kung nawagtang sa mind. Anyways, guys, you have questions that you would like to ask for our speaker? Any inputs that you would like to add? Sir Mertz, maybe you have something to say?
Yeah, actually, of course, this is a socio-political landscape. I'm really interested in discussing the the prospect for 2022. As the election is nearing. I just want to ask Ma'am Laila if because based on your presentation, Metro Cebu is one of the biggest vote turnouts every elections. How do you think this kind of activism from the electorate propel such kind of, for example, creative tourism happens eventually in Cebu? And what do you think is our guiding principle in terms of choosing the right people who can bring us to that, leading towards that direction?
That's really a hard question, but then for me personally, no, because today is just the start of filing of candidacy, and we don't know yet in our local scene who will run, and although we already heard some. But personally, and that's also what I'm telling my students, let's take a look at candidates who are considering this pandemic as a very good and relevant learning lesson for everybody. So in the field of tourism, I don't believe we can go back to mass tourism because the pandemic will not We cannot erase this pandemic in one snap of a finger. It will take time. So also, every time I go here in the Philippines or outside the Philippines for tourism or for exploration, I'm really impressed with ecotourism, disciplined tourism, because we are taking into consideration everything. So we are not just there to enjoy and anything else, but we have to be responsible tourists. So for one, I will look for a candidate who believes in responsible tourism, ecotourism, because for me, it will also go into the other traits, like they are concerned with ecology, with what's happening around us, and so on and so forth. They are concerned with the people. They are concerned with the livelihood of the people, because ecotourism, responsible tourism, has something to do with local tourism. So the people should be the caretakers of their own tourist destinations. So we are not gone are the days nga, or gone were the days nga. It should be gone were the days with mass tourism. Now we will just go there for enjoyment. So for me, I will be looking for that candidate, because again, he is looking not only with one aspect, but the totality or many aspects of the society, especially the people, the ordinary people. Okay, especially now nga daghan kayo nawad ang trabaho, and tourism industry is highly affected. So that's one of the things I've observed before the pandemic. When we do cultural heritage mapping, we were mapping the built and natural heritage. So lingaw kaayo mi. But during this pandemic, we had cultural mapping in Lapu-Lapu City last February. And then I found out nga kuan, sakit among dughan. Kay daghan mga tour guides, both people who lost their jobs. Unya ang daghan kay no kay island hopping gud ang Lapu-Lapu. So daghan kayo mga bangka, mga tourist nga mga bangka kanang pang island hopping nga naka-standby because it's there. Whereas comparing to ecotourism sa Aluginsan, because I know everybody here is kanang familiar with how ecotourism works. So they already have the savings, and during the pandemic, it helped a lot with the tour guides who were the former fishermen and wives of
Is this
fishermen.
ananas? Do we have ananas in Philippines? Ananas with
Yes.
fish? Ananas with fish?
Hi, Clemens. What's your question? Because I will call Ma'am Lynn first, because she raised her hand earlier. Ma'am Lynn?
Is there growing ananas on Philippines?
Clemens, we can't understand you. Maybe you can type
Ananas
your
is
question, please.
pineapple, Sir Mertz. Pineapple. Ananas.
Pineapple. Okay. We have some growers in Cebu, but mainly it's in the southern part in Mindanao area. Mostly you can find pineapples and banana. Okay, Ma'am Lynn, maybe we can recognize Ma'am Lynn to ask question.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It came into my mind and I am very excited that the academe is in coordination with an LGU with regards to the creative tourism in Lapu-Lapu. But then I have thought about Cebu City, and then I know that there is a commission on historical and cultural something. But then it came into my mind that the people who are in that office they need to have capacity building, because not only in Cebu City but the rest of Cebu, most of the LGUs doesn't have the capability to recognize the talents and potentials of their constituents. So if they don't have the capacity to be able to recognize these talents, to be pursued in order for them to improve their lives, then how can we have creative tourism? So I think I would have to ask Ma'am Laila if it's possible for the academy to collaborate with the LGUs in order to develop this capacity building for the LGUs, because every new administration you change the people and then no more. See, so if we're going to develop Metro Cebu as a creative hub, there has to be a pool of persons who can just be able to train again these LGUs in relation to how to tap, how to develop, how to promote, and so on for the creative hub dream of IMF to sustain. So that's the idea that came into my mind.
Thank you, Ma'am Lynn. Ma'am Laila, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. It's possible for, as what Architect Maxwell Espina wrote here in the chat group, I also believe in it working. So it has only something to do with tapping them. So I also, I think, I believe in every municipality, in every city, there is the Committee on Heritage Conservation, History, and Heritage Conservation, Culture and Heritage Conservation. It's there. Cebu is quite some of the towns are quite active with this heritage conservation. But then again, going back to the question, yes, of course we can. We are just, of course, there are municipalities who has our assistance, and we are ready for doing that. So I think there is the need also to let this local government units to understand better the importance of heritage conservation, so that we can tap this creative, or we can take a look at the creative tourism.
Yeah, thank you, Leila. It's a good question from Leno, the institutional aspect and how can we sustain that what is ongoing now? Because again, sometimes, and it's the reality, every election it changes, especially if the new administration is against or opposing side of the previous administration. So there is also a sudden shift of priorities. So how can we institutionalize the approach? And I also agree with Ma'am Leila on how she answered things out. Since the university itself has its also limitation in terms of resources, the request must really came from the LGU itself. There is a question from Architect Maxwell. You're raising your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the discussion. I think it's a matter of getting all these people together to network and to work at a singular goal. Come up, support everybody, support it. And then there are stumbling blocks. Like, for example, I sit in the board of the Cebu Arts Council, and one of our biggest difficulties is the venue. No, we cannot have performances. For example, let's say a ballet. No, it's very difficult to come up with a proper performance. In the discussion now of the CEW, the series of forums that's being conducted presently by the Cebu Chamber of Commerce. This guy Alan Nazareno was talking about the venues that can create fantastic effects. A digital stage. Before, they used to have the fly system. You have backdrops, and then you fly it up. So you have very big theater with a very large
fly space. But now it's all just you have a backdrop made of a LED board that's gigantic, and then they can create all sorts of effects there. So the performances have become cheaper. Of course, the initial cost of the Oasis itself is expensive, but the production becomes much cheaper. You know, and they can create all sorts of effects. Anyway, I was thinking that maybe if everybody gets together, if we're talking about tourism, for example, creative tourism, we can have everybody support, no? Even the travel agencies, for example, not to sell Cebu as a destination for performances, for museums, for example, to look at the whatever artifacts. By the way, San Carlos is a very good museum now. It is something that can be a tourist attraction. Sculpture, paintings, much as we go to the Louvre in France for, no, of course, we cannot approach the level of the Louvre, but we can start probably and do something that sort. And then we have the tours to the south, no, to the heritage churches, like a church related or religious related. A lot can be done. I think it's just a matter of tying it all together and then getting everybody on board. But we just have somebody we should have somebody to organize it, to get everybody involved. So it has to be very inclusive. My experience with the Arts Council.
Not so very inclusive. Not so very inclusive.
Not very inclusive. Yeah, correct. In my experience, there are some artist groups that do not wish to, you know, they can be very moody. So it's difficult to deal with certain personalities. But I'm sure if we can agree on a common goal, maybe they'd be convinced to work, cooperatively. That's one. But I think one of the biggest is the venue. Now we might have an opportunity because there's a consortium of Ayala and SM. Do you know about that? No, they're building a very big complex in SRT, in the South Reclamation Project, and maybe we can convince them to come up with the venue, no, a venue that can even produce operas. You know, you cannot produce operas anywhere in the Philippines. Even the CCP cannot produce an opera of the likes of the ones we see abroad. It's not equipped properly for that. We should by now have already venues like this, and not only one but several. And it doesn't have to be very, you know, some of the venues can just be black boxes, very simple black boxes. This afternoon we were talking about a performance rock of all ages. Have you seen that in Manila? It's the longest running pala. I saw it already, but the venue, if you go to the venue, it's like an old house that they just converted. So it's very funny, but you can do things like that in simpler venues. But still, there are limitations to that. You should have a range, no, of choices. You can have very simple productions in just plain black boxes, and very elaborate ones, no, where you can really test or test to the limit the creativity of artists. I am so hopeful, no, that our economy is going to be towards creative, because I think that's our only chance. We do not have agriculture. We cannot have industry in any big way. But I think it's really in creatives that we can really make a worldwide statement. We were trying to support it, no, in the university. As I said, we tried to come up with a film school because we noticed that our architecture students were interested in film. So some of them went into film production and won competitions abroad using only their cell phones. I was thinking that if we come up with a formal curriculum on it, that will, really train them not only in what's this, not only in the techniques, but also in the history of it, the theories behind it, to make their knowledge deeper, and then come up with more substantive productions, but the sort of thing that can what's it about? I saw envy other countries, like they're saying now in Netflix, one of the biggest series that was happening is a Korean series called Squid. Have you seen it? I don't even like it. It's very famous. It's very popular all over the world. So I wonder if we can come up with productions like that. Should not be very difficult, even using only very simple cameras. Well, it's a thought, and I think we need everybody to get on board. I don't know how. I think the Cebu Chamber can be a very good catalyst with these ideas. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Architect. Actually, on the perspective of global arts and creativity, Mark is asking if would it be possible, Ma'am Laila, if we can collaborate with other institutions in other countries, like, for example, the creative industry in Singapore, to propel this kind of initiative. We've been talking about this in previous FGDs. We want to hear your thoughts about it, and probably Architect Maxwell also can give some ideas on this question from Mark.
Yes, of course. No, I think it's possible. That's it. That's what Architect Espina said a while ago. There should be somebody who is the prime mover and to give us a united stand or work endeavor on this matter. So of course it's very possible because more and more countries are going into ecotourism and creative tourism. And in fact, I even saw some what do you call that one? Research grants or exploration grants in line with this, especially from the Western countries or European countries to the Asian countries. So I believe it's possible.
I think collaboration is the key. This guy Alan, I was so impressed by his presentation. I think you really should listen to his presentation. Maybe we can invite him. Alan Nazareno. He's Cebuano. He was saying that to do this one production, he got people from all over, to teach. He has a group called Broadway Youth, and they were sort of training for some production, and he got people from all over, including Manila and London and Hong Kong and Singapore, for different aspects of production, like lighting, stage design, script writing, etc. All of that all together, and then they were able to do something that's quite good. So it's something like that. I think we should not be, we should be very inclusive. In the University of San Carlos, again, when we put up the film school, we invited this guy, Paul Grant. He's an American. He studied in Columbia University. He was doing his master's, or his doctorate. And curiously, his doctorate was on Cebuano film. Can you imagine? A guy in London doing his doctorate on Cebuano film. We were casting about for a person who can anchor the program. So we already had one guy on board. This guy Anisimov. He's American but of Russian descent. But he did not have the academic background. He was just interested in film, and he had a very wide collection of films. So he was more sort of self-taught in the film theory, But this Paul Grant a real academic. So we wrote to him and he responded. I was very interested coming. So he relocated, including his family, brought them to Cebu. And then we established this program in San Carlos. So for 2 or 3 years, he stayed here. He's so interested in is that his children speak fluent Bisaya. He himself speaks Visayan, but and then his interests are in very, very weird. His interests are in Cebuano film. Sila si Gloria Sevilla. He knows all about Gloria Sevilla. There's a golden age of Cebuano film in 1950s, anchored by this family of the Sevillas. So he knew all about that. He was trying to. He was saying that we should try to develop the Cebuano film industry into a new golden age. When his contract came up for review and renewal, he wasn't renewed by the university. It's sayang, but we lost him. He's now back in he has a teaching position somewhere in Canada. But I really felt that was a big loss. I don't know how the program is doing now, but while he was there, he did very well. So it's like that. We can get expertise until we ourselves learn and we are able to develop our own, it's what the United States doing, diba? It just steals brains from all over the world and that brings them together, lets them establish the. So we should be able to do this, especially if we can attract brilliant minds. If we already have the potential anyway, I'm sure we will be able to attract people to come and help in the collaboration.
Okay, thank you for that very, very nice sharing, Architect Marston. Ellie, you have other participants here who would like to ask question, or are we wrapping up?
Yeah, I think we're wrapping up. Thank you for sharing, Architect Maxwell. No, a lot of things that have been done, and I also agree that what we lacked here in Cebu is really collaborating all the efforts, no, integrating it into one initiative. How can we group this initiative that is being done here in Cebu? And we're glad that we see progress already headed by a Cebu Chamber. And how can we assist or somehow support the initiative that the Cebu Chamber had made? I will go back to what Architect Espina and maybe Ma'am Leila mentioned about the common goal. And I think that's where this FGD, the Metro Hackathon can provide. Maybe through this FGD's discussion, we can come up with what's really the common goal para dito the rest of the initiative can align themselves, no? And possible the chamber can assist on the planning, no? But I think what we don't have right now is really the vision. The vision. What do we want? What do we want to see? And how can we make this creative hub move forward? And with that, we need to have a common goal in mind. So, and I think this is one of the major objective of this hackathon, to see and answer what's the role of Cebu 30 years from now, not just in the Philippines, but also
probably come up with a strategy, no? Maybe very rough, rough roadmap to how to get to that point.
Yep. Yeah, and that could be a good guide na for the chamber because they already starting it, but they don't have yet what's the end in mind. So what the Metro Hackathon and the IMF and CBs can provide is the goal and key strategies how to reach that goal. Yeah,
I think that's very correct.
Yes. Yes.
We also have local artists here, an organization of filmmakers, Cebu filmmakers. And in fact, Joanna Arong is already making in the big scene. So award-winning siya. So maybe you can tap these people. They're just there in the silently doing their craft.
This FGD is also about politics and the social aspects, no? If I'm not wrong. Bohol, Tagbilaran is going to be building the regional arts center or something. Big development in Bohol, of all places in Tagbilaran. I don't know if they'll be able to get the critical mass of people, but to make it sustainable. But it is there, and it's because of their politicians. But they're very good at organizing these things, and their politicians work together. So this guy Chato, the governor, is amazing. He's a very good planner, but and then he can get people to work together. And then this other guy, the cultural person, see Dr. What's his name? I forget now. Very active also. So imagine they were able to do it there, and then we cannot. I don't know if anybody even thought about it in Cebu, but which would have been the more logical center for a regional one of that size. But they've already bidded out the project. They're going to be starting construction very soon. So it's going to come. Everybody before was saying, that will not happen. It's not going to be built because they don't even have the audience there, etc., etc. They're building it. So it's like they will build it and then people will come. It's like induced demand or something. I do not know. I hope they're going to be successful. But we can collaborate with them.
Yeah,
It's very true.
That's a good point that shared by Architect Maxwell. Actually, I have this experience when I went to Iloilo. They're converting their provincial jail to a museum, and I asked them, "Why are you doing that?" No, and it's something new for me. And they just said to me, "We just followed what Cebu did." They go, Cebu did it.
Yeah, the provincial jail is that it's a very nice. It's a very nice.
Yeah. So there are other islands, that is following the footstep of Cebu. Number one, in preserving, but they just don't know. There are a lot of hurdles, challenges that we are facing here in Cebu. Thus, in relation to what Architect Maxwell mentioned, we need a political champion. Our next FGD, which will be next Wednesday, talks about Metro Cebu governance. How is our government political situation here in Cebu? Maybe a quick history and the evolution of it affects.
I've long given up on our
Cebu now.
Cannot work. I think the private sector works better.
Yes.
In our case, don't you think? Because it's so disruptive, the politics in Cebu.
That's right. I agree also with that, Architect Maxwell. That's why our topic also by October next Wednesday is not just more on the government side, but really governance. How is and cooperating with the private sector, CSO, academia? Since governance itself is really negotiating, discussing, collaborating, coordinating. That's governance is all about. With other key proponents or factors in development, no? So that would be our next FGD. That is next week, Wednesday, and hopefully you're excited and will join us by that day. And before we end and I summarize the discussion, we would like to appreciate our speaker for today, Ma'am Delayla Labajo. She's a very busy person kay ting midterm ron sa USC, I'm sure. And thank you for giving us your time for this afternoon. And there is a certificate for you and we will deliver it. We are also preparing a small token for you and we will deliver it to your department. Thank you, Ma'am Delayla. Let's give Ma'am Delayla a virtual round of applause for sharing to us a quick background of Cebu's social and political landscape and the development since before, even pre-colonial. Grabe na backtracing, flashback, grabe nga flashback. So, before we end as well, may I ask Sir Mertz, because he has takeaways for this discussion. Then after Sir Mertz, may I request everyone to turn on the camera for a quick photo opportunity. Sir Mertz?
Thank you for that, Ellie. And thank you, Ma'am Laila and Sir Maxwell. It's a good, very engaging discussion. Actually, my takeaway here is it can be possible pala to discuss socio-political landscape without discussing the politicians, no? And you talk about the people, their potentials for creativity and so on. So this, for me, a very good discussions on socio-political landscape. And
Why
of
the
course,
tourism?
having that kind of mind,
Why
no,
about
of
tourism?
course, yeah, that's true, Clemens. All your ideas posted in the chat group, Clemens, are happening already in Cebu, including the Koreans. They've been massing up in Cebu and establishing English language studies for the Koreans. But of course, one of my takeaway here is we need to have a strong support group that, as Mark said, we need to have a strong support group that can nominate and support leaders and can push through the kind of creativity in Cebu, leading towards our goal for the next 30 years. Am I right, Ellie? So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Mertz, and may I request them to turn on their camera. Just a quick photo op lang before we end. This is our way of checking the attendance of everybody. Okay, there will be a scoring after. Just joking. So, yeah, can you turn on your camera, and can I request from my team, Audrey or Mitzi, to take the shot, please?
I think Mariah will take the screenshot, sir.
Okay, Mariah.
Okay, smile everyone. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay na, Abby. Bye-bye na.
Okay,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Ma'am Leila. Thank you, Architect Maxwell.
you.
Thank you, participants and the rest of the team. Thank you, guys.
Hi, Ma'am Lynn.
See you next week, Wednesday, for our next FGD. Sir Mertz, great job for takeaways.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mitzi.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mariah, Audrey, thank you, guys. Great job. Great job, everybody. And I hope you learned something for today, especially sa atong mga Cebuana, Audrey, Mariah. I hope you learned something from Cebu, and hopefully Mitzi can copy it. Bacolod Mitzi, no?
Unsa, sir?
Asa gani karon?
Bacolod, sir.
Okay. I hope you learn something and copy it in Bacolod. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.